It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon because Vernell Brown III, you are a Florida Gator.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Sunday? That's right. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33. And yeah, we've got a Sunday show for you because Vernell Brown III, elite blue chip wide receiver out of Orlando, has committed to the good guys. He is a Florida Gator. The Florida Gators land the commitment of Vernell Brown III over Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State. And I will say this, for quite some time throughout the spring, it kind of felt wishy-washy everywhere. Early in the spring, we even heard reports, and I believe there were some crystal balls, that Vernell Brown III was going to commit to Ohio State. Because, of course, Brian Hartline, wide receiver U right now, that was the expectation for a while. Then we heard throughout the spring kind of a lot of schools, but Florida State had some traction in early June. Then Miami had some traction. Then Florida for the past month or so. It's been about, I want to say, 3 to 4 weeks that we've been talking about this on the show and been saying, hey, Vernell Brown III, Florida feels pretty good about landing him. They knocked it out of the park with his official visit in mid-June. And, I mean, look, we had Florida State had their official visit. And I don't know, not that Florida State didn't do well on their official visit, but I feel like after the official visit, we didn't feel like there was any traction there. And I think that was an important part where it's like, well, he went there and there was no, Vernell Brown might commit to Florida State after that. Before that, we heard it, and Brian Smith said it here, that he's like, hey, I'm hearing Florida State. And he hasn't been on the show in recent weeks, but we have agreed. But we both knew that Florida was feeling pretty good about this. Florida felt good where they stood for the past, again, month-ish. And that's been the expectation here. I will also say, I am not the kind of person that I go, oh, if you whiff on if you don't land a legacy, then it's a whiff. I just don't believe in that and I've said it before, with how so many kids in the current day and age and in just modern recruiting, they want to go start their own legacy. And so I do think that for a lot of kids, I don't go, oh, that's a legacy, that's a whiff if you don't land him. However, Vernell Brown III would have been a whiff. And I said this a couple weeks ago where it's different for Vernell Brown III because his dad was a Florida Gator. His grandfather was a Florida Gator. And his dad was on the coaching staff or with the program 2 seasons ago, the 2022 season. He was here. He left after that to go be Anthony Richardson's manager. But he was with the program, and it wasn't an ugly breakup at all. It's completely amicable. Hell, Vernell Brown Sr. and Jr. were on campus with Vernell Brown III for his official visit in June. This would have been a whiff if you didn't land him. However, you did, and so we get to be happy about that. This is a high 4 or 5 star, depending on where you look. I'll pull up the on-3 rankings just so we can compare and contrast. But on the 24/7 composite, he's a 5-star. 24/7 has him as a 4-star themselves, but on their composite, he's a 5-star. And you look at on-3, Actually, that's very weird. According to On3, he is a 4-star by every service, but according to 24/7's composite, he's a 5-star. That's very odd. Um, that's such a weird coincidence. I don't even know how the heck that happens, but I'm looking at the screens right now and I see that. But he is either the 6th or 7th ranked receiver nationally on On3. He is number 6 on 24/7 ESPN and Rivals. He is number 7 in the state of Florida. He is number 4. He is the number 4 player in the state of Florida on On3 and 24/7. Number 8 on ESPN. Number 10 on Rivals. He's the number 38 player in the country on On3, 36th player in the country on 24/7, 53rd player in the country on ESPN, and 34th player on Rivals. But I mean, this is just a home run landing. First off, before I even give my opinion of the actual film, let's say this. I often look at the offer sheet for players because I go, hey, if you've got offer, like if you're a 3-star, but you've got offers from a bunch of SEC programs, I care more about that. And I have one school that I need to look at, and I say, if they wanted you at receiver, you can play receiver. And that's Ohio State. And Ohio State was pushing hard for Vernell Brown III. He's going to be good. That's my expectation. But he's very much a Napier type of receiver. He's listed at like 5'10" and a half. I feel like that might be a little generous, but again, he's still got a little bit. And by that, I mean, he might be 5'10". But dynamic as all hell with the ball in his hands. Like, and I know he's the kind of receiver where they were probably showing him Trey Wilson's film from last year. Just like, hey, like we know you've seen this, but this could be you in 2025 when Trey Wilson could potentially be a first-round pick in that next draft. This could be you. And I know that they're showing him that film because that's the kind of player he is. He's that kind of dynamic player where you go, hey, just get him the ball in any way, shape, or form and makes him play. He had, I think it was like 20 yards per catch in high school. Let's just say he was getting the ball deep at times, but for the most part, he was working underneath. Like that, and he averaged 20 yards catch because he's that dynamic with the ball in his hands. So the Florida Gators just landed a stud playmaker for their offense, and I can't wait to see what happens next with him, the recruiting class, and just our Florida Gators. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs have wrapped up with the NBA and NHL and Wimbledon wrapped up, and we've still got the U.S. Open coming here. But we don't have sports all day, every day like we want them, right? But FanDuel lets you keep sports going whenever you do want. And all you have to do is open the app, dream up bets at any time that you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And really for the Florida Gators, I think the thing you have to talk about is what's next. Like you look at the current recruiting class and on 24/7's class calculator, if you add Vernell Brown III to it, he is now your highest ranked player. And he bumps you up to a team score of 170.11, which right now the Florida Gators are 68th ranked nationally, a 147.77 team score. And so, like I said, he brings you up to 170.11, which would bring you all the way up from 68 to 62. I'm embarrassed to talk about this. Brings you up to 62, and you pass Illinois, and you're right behind Louisville. That's where you're at. You're very close behind Louisville, Iowa, Wake Forest, Cal, Kansas State, where literally another 3-star could probably pass you up there. But for Florida, that's where you'd be at. You'd be at 62 nationally. And again, like there's still plenty of time for Florida to improve upon this class. Especially with some addition to the staff, I want to say. Just Wink, wink. We'll leave it at that. But the rest of the class, I mean, you also have this coming Saturday, Lagonza Hayward, safety out of Toombs County, Georgia, is committing to a school. I don't think it will be Florida. I think that he's going to be Tennessee bound. And this was always a possibility. Like we've heard it before, where Lagonza was someone that immediately after his visit, it's like, oh yeah, Florida's the leader big time here. And like I've said on the show before, I think that he would be willing to commit there, but he had his date set, and Florida's coaching staff usually lets guys stick to their date. And so that's what happened there. And I told you after the visit, I said, look, that's a month and a week. That's a long time to expect someone or that's a long time to not lose that, right? Like that's just where we stand there. That's a long time to not lose a commitment. A month and a week is a long time. Again, that was what I said, and that's how I felt, and that's how I still feel, because I think he's going to be a Tennessee Volunteer, and that sucks. Is what it is. But hey, maybe you can get into this late. Try to eat away, I guess, at the lead. Smack the crap out of my computer. Eat away at the lead that Tennessee has built. You have Ben Hanks Jr., one of the top cornerbacks in the country. He's I think the 10th corner in the country on 3 right now. And I do think that Florida Gators fans should feel good about where they stand with Ben Hanks Jr., another legacy player, another player that for a while has felt like he's going to be a Florida Gators commit. There's also Nayshawn Montgomery, blue chip receiver, hell of a talent there. I think he's going to be very good, and he's one that we've said for a long time. I think he's going to be a Florida Gator. I think it's just a matter of when he actually makes the announcement. And he's said, I'm going to hold off until I play like 2 games, and then I'll make my commitment. I firmly believe that that's because he wants to see how Florida plays the first couple games of the season. He was supposed to be a late summer commit, pushed it back a couple weeks. I think that's the reason. I have no source for that. I have nobody telling me that. Just reading the tea leaves on some things. We know recruiting, a lot of it's going to be, well, Florida needs to win some games to convince some kids to commit, even kids that want to commit to you. I think that they need to see how you're going to perform before they can go, okay, you're going to be here for sure. Which even then, Florida could start 2-0, 3-0, and then Nayshawn commits, and it doesn't guarantee anything. But to my knowledge, Nayshawn Montgomery wants to be a Florida Gator. I do think that he is a take for them. Of course, he's a very talented football player. And I think Florida right now has the lead. And when he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to wait until I play a couple games of high school senior year, I firmly believe that it's because he wants to see what Florida does. He just doesn't want to say that. To my knowledge, I don't have a source with that. But Ben Hanks Jr. and Nayshawn Montgomery are 2 guys that I said I feel good about. And those 2 additions alone would bring you all the way up to being the 30th ranked class, which is still not good, obviously. But going from 68 to 30, pretty damn good. And that's not including any other additions you may have before or after or in between. So for Florida, there's promise for this class to get considerably better. There's also promise for other classes to get worse. Coaches will get fired. Coaches will get replaced. Coaches will leave for promotions, and they will probably take some players with them. But for Florida, I think right now, we know that as far as recruiting goes, a lot of it's going to come down to, and you win football games this year so that you can tell people, hey, I will be the coach of the Florida Gators next year, and actually make them believe it. But hey, Vernell Brown, hell of an addition. Absolutely love it. And yeah, I think he's going to be one hell of a football player at the next level. If that's Florida, Ohio State, anywhere that it may be. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. You're available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33, and I will see you all next time.